Okay, got it. Bala Krishna Prabhu, the floor is yours.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Anand Bihari Prabhu. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajjanarana Yashodanandana Brajjanarana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. We'll be starting chapter 18 from the 10th canto today. There are quite a few verses that were given from the first one till the 12th. We try to read as much as we can. There's only purpose for like a couple of them. So we'll start. Shri Shukha Vacha Ata Krishna Parivrito Jnati Bhir Mudi Tatmabhi Anugiya Mano Anya Vishad Vrajam Gokula Manditam. Shukdev Goswami said, surrounded by his blissful companions who constantly chanted his glories, Shri Krishna then entered the village of Vraj, which was decorated with herds of cows. Vraje Vikridato Revam Gopala Chatama Mayaya Grishmo Namartur Abhavan Nati Preyan Charirinam. While Krishna and Balaram were thus enjoying life in Vrindavan in the guise of ordinary cowherd boys, the summer season gradually appeared. This season is not very pleasing to embodied souls. In chapter 18 of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments as follows. The summer season in India is not very much welcomed because of the excessive heat, but in Vrindavan, everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. In Vrindavan, everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. Third verse. Sacha Vrindavana Gunair Vasanta Iva Lakshita Yatraste Bhagavan Shakshad Ramena Sahakeshava. Nevertheless, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was personally staying in Vrindavan along with Balram, summer manifested the qualities of spring. Such are the features of the land of Vrindavan. Yatra nirchara nirhrada nivritta swana jillikam Shashvat Shashvatach Chikkara Jisa Drumamandala Manditam. In Vrindavan, the loud sound of waterfalls covered the cricket's noise, and clusters of trees, constantly moistened by spray from those waterfalls, beautified the entire area. This and the following 3 verses describe how Vrindavan manifested the features of spring even during the summer season. Verse 5. Saritsara Prasravanor mi Vayuna Kalara Kanjot Palare Nuharina Navidyate Yatra Vanaukasham Davo Nidagha Pani Arka Bhavoti Chadwale. The wind wafting over the waves of the lakes and flowing rivers carried away the pollen of many varieties of lotuses and water lilies, and then cooled the entire Vrindavan area. Thus, the residents there did not suffer from the heat generated by the blazing summer sun, and seasonal forest fires. Indeed, Vrindavan was abundant with fresh green grass. Number 6. Aghada toya hradini tator mibhir dravat puri shyap pulinai samantata nayatra chandam shukara vishol bana bhuvorasam sadvalitam cha granate. With their flowing waves, the deep rivers drenched their banks, making them damp and muddy. Thus the rays of the sun, which were as fierce as poison, could not evaporate the earth's sap or parch its green grass. Vanam kusumitam shriman nadachitra mriga dvijam gayan mayura Brahmaram Pujat Kokila Sarasam. Flowers beautifully decorated the forest of Vrindavan, and many varieties of animals and birds filled it with sound. The peacocks and bees sang, and the cuckoos and cranes cooed. Kridishya Manas Tat Krishno Bhagavan Bala Samyuta Venum Viranayan Gopair Godhanai Samvrito Vishat. Intending to engage in pastimes, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, accompanied by Lord Balram and surrounded by the cowherd boys and the cows, entered the forest of Vrindavan as he played his flute. Number 9. Pravala Barha Stabaka Shragdhatu Krita Bhushana Rama Krishna Dayo Gopa Nanratur Yuyudhur Jago. Decorating themselves with newly grown leaves, along with peacock feathers, garlands, clusters of flower buds, and colored minerals, Balram, Krishna, and their cowherd friends danced, wrestled, and sang. 3 more to go. Krishnasya Nrityatha Kechij Jago Kechid Avadayan Venu Pani Talai Shringai Prashas Samshur Athapare. As Krishna danced, some of the boys accompanied him by singing and others by playing flutes, hand cymbals, and buffalo horns, while still others praised his dancing. Purport: wanting to encourage Sri Krishna, some of the cowherd boys openly praised his dancing. Gopajati Prati Channa Deva Gopala Rupinao Idire Krishna Ramaucha Nata Iva Natam Nripa. O king, demigods disguise themselves as members of the cowherd community, and just as dramatic dancers praise another dancer, worshipped Krishna and Balram, who were also appearing as cowherd boys. And the last one. Brahmanair Langanai Kshepair Aspo Tana Vikar Shanai Chikri Datur Niyu Dhena Kaka Paksha Dharau Kvachit. Krishna and Balram played with their cowherd boyfriends by whirling about, leaping, hurling, slapping, and fighting. Sometimes Krishna and Balram would pull the hair on the boys' heads. Purport? The Acharyas have explained this verse as follows. The word Brahmanai indicates that the boys, pretending they were machines, would sometimes whirl about until they became dizzy. They would also sometimes jump about, Langhanai. The word Shepai indicates that sometimes they would hurl objects like balls or stones, and that sometimes they would grab each other by the arms and throw one another about. Ashpotana means that sometimes they would slap one another's shoulders or backs, and Vikarshanai indicates they would drag one another about in the midst of their play. By the word Niyudhena, arm wrestling and other types of friendly fighting are indicated. And the word Kakapaksha Dharau means that Krishna and Balram would sometimes grab the hair on the other boys' heads in a playful manner. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. It's always good to hear the Sanskrit because these are words spoken by Shukdev Goswami, by the sages. So it is purifying to even hear all the verses. It's purifying to our consciousness. So here in this pastime, like we get to see about the summer season approaching Vrindavan. And usually summers in India and in Vrindavan, it is quite intense. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matra Sparshasta Kaunteya Sitoshana Sukha Dukkada Agama Paino Nityastam Titikshosva Bharata. Like the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and the disappearance in due course are just like the appearance and disappearance of winter and the summer seasons. They arise out of sense perception and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. And in the next verse, Krishna says, Yam hi na vyatyante te purusha sabha samadukha sukham dha dhiram somrittatvaya kalpate. The person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So in this situation, like how do we see that the devotees are tolerating? Like the explanation that I heard was by keeping the consciousness fixed in Krishna, like whether in happiness or in distress, and never allowing our service to get disturbed because of circumstances. Like we should try our best to stay fixed on our commitments, to chant our rounds, to do our sadhana, to do our seva. And we see the example of the Brajvasis doing this actually. So in the previous chapter, we saw how Kaliya captured Krishna, and after that, the Brajvasis they chose to rest on the banks of the Yamuna because they were so attached to that place and so attached to what had just taken place. They didn't want to go home. It was a celebration on the banks of the river itself. Like there were like singing and dancing. There were gifts given out in charity. And the Brajavasis were very, very jubilant actually. So when Krishna came out of Yamuna after he was in the coils of Kaliya, he was decorated with jewels and ornaments which the Nagapatnis and Kaliya had given him. So the devotees were intoxicated with divine joy, and they decided to spend the night on the banks of the Yamuna, not go home all the way back to Vrindavan. And while sleeping, it is said like they have dreams of Krishna. No wonder. And because their consciousness is so completely absorbed that even in their dreams, they are associating with Krishna. This is something to learn for us, something to graduate towards for all of us. Like how absorbed are we in Krishna during the day, and that can in our subconscious thoughts. And their consciousness for the Vrajavasis was always towards like turning towards Krishna. So while they were sleeping, like a forest fire broke out, and they all woke up, and they all wondered like what is happening. And even while they are wondering, their consciousness is like so absorbed towards Krishna that they are already turning towards Krishna. Oh Krishna. It's like in one of the verses it says, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga. Oh Krishna, the most fortunate. They are like desperately calling out with love, with like, Krishna, you are our protector, you are our maintainer. You are our only protector and maintainer. And please protect us. And even when they were looking to be protected, it wasn't for selfish reasons. So it is said that Mother Yashoda was thinking like, if I were to die, then who will feed Krishna? That was her consciousness. So even when their life is in danger, their concern is Krishna's well-being. The Gopas are thinking, oh, if something happens to us, then who will play with Krishna? Like who will have fun with Krishna? So even it's quite a high example. Like even under such circumstances, they are only thinking about Krishna's well-being, his happiness. And this is given by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. And they were basically not even attached to their bodies. Their only satisfaction was, how do I serve Krishna under all circumstances? So, and Krishna at the end, like he says, like, you can all, if you please all close your eyes, then I will take care of this. And when they close their eyes, Krishna just like, he just swallows the entire forest fire. And the reason given is quite sweet, that when Mother Yashoda saw and Balram and Krishna's friends told like, oh, Krishna is eating dirt, then Mother Yashoda was getting concerned. She asked Krishna to open his mouth, and when she saw the entire universe, basically, she was concerned for Krishna's well-being. And in this case, if she were to come to know that Krishna swallowed an entire forest fire, then just imagine how much more concerned she would be. So he didn't want to get into that situation again with his mother. Yeah, and even in the mornings, like we sing Samsara Dava prayers. So it is like the same forest fire analogy is used. Like the material world is a forest fire. It's like Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, Adi Atmik. We can feel some or the other suffering all the time. And even when there is no suffering, we can rest assured that suffering is right around the corner. Just like Prabhupada would say, like suffering is, happiness is just a temporary relief from suffering. So that is the default condition, the Dukhalaya Mashashvatam. This is like Kuntalok, place of anxiety. So Vrajvasi's attitude was Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke. So if Krishna wants to save us, no one can kill us. And if Krishna doesn't want us to save us, then no one can protect us. So again, these are all like very high goals for all of us to aspire for, one step at a time. Shanai, Shanai, like Krishna says in the 6th chapter, step by step. And next thing we see in these pastimes, in these verses, is like how the land of Vrindavan came together. The water, the trees, the waterfalls, the birds, the animals. So you can, like the question can be asked, like, why is the sun so hot when Krishna and Balram are there? The explanation is given that the sun is encouraging the cloud, the waterfall, the rivers to serve Krishna. So by the sun like turning up, it's his heat, the clouds, the waterfalls, the trees, all of them are able to engage in their service. So the sun is basically encouraging the seva of the other Brajvasis. And that is an example for all of us. Like, how are we able to encourage each other in each other's service? Like, ultimately, the happiness can only be by feeding the belly, like, so, or watering the root. So how can we encourage each other so that Krishna becomes happy, so that we can also consequently become happy by keeping Krishna and his devotees in the center. Dasa, 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 anudas. So we see that no two blades of grass are envious of each other. Like in Vrindavan, there is no spirit of envy, no spirit of competition. It's only encouraging and enthusing each other. So a blade of grass knows that, oh, when Krishna steps, he's not going to step only on me, he's going to step on a cluster of grass. So only if all the blades of grass around me are also soft, then when Krishna steps, he'll be happy, he'll feel relief. And for Krishna, like, all his senses can do everything. So when Krishna steps on the blades of grass, they feel like Krishna is embracing them. So that is the quality. So by us encouraging each other, by putting Krishna in the center, we can also enter into the spirit of Vrindavan, even while being here, living in the material world. And then when Krishna feels happy, they feel like, oh, Krishna, we all together, we made Krishna happy. Like Mahaprabhu, when he started the Sankirtan mission, it's for all of us to come together and sing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, to do service, to do book distribution. And Sankirtan mission is like all encompassing, all inclusive. So how are we trying to serve others? Like Prabhupada, there's one pastime when the GBC and Prabhupada were walking in Mayapur during a morning walk. They were all complaining about the temples, about the projects, and Prabhupada at a point, he just stops. He turns around, he says, like, all of you are here only to complain. He repeated himself, all of you are here only to complain. I'm here to encourage. I'm here to encourage. And then he turns around and he starts walking again. So it's very instructive for all of us. How can we encourage? How can we try to be more tolerant and encourage others, encourage ourselves? Even we need encouragement. So, and one aspect that we see is just, I have a few more points. I'm trying to see which would be best to cover. We see that the aspect of simplicity is coming out here. When the Gopas, they decorate Krishna and each other with leaves, with forest flowers, with minerals, even though their Mother Yashoda are sending them, decorating them with lots of ornaments, but the simplicity is really attractive. Prabhupada gives this story of this old lady in the Radha Damodar temple who would bring water from the Yamuna every day for Radha Damodar. And he remembered her fondly. And why such a, this is like quite an insignificant, in one sense, an insignificant act, but it is so deep that her love and her sincerity towards Radha Damodar was expressed by a simple act of like bringing water. And Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He's expecting like he's expecting like water from the well, water from the rivers. Of course, we are all living in the cities. That is not possible. But that simple act of bringing water touched Prabhupada, and he repeated that, and many of us still remember this pastime. And how can we try to bring that aspect of simplicity? Like it cannot happen overnight. Like how can we have like simple pleasures in our Krishna consciousness, in serving Krishna by chanting, by associating with the devotees, by having prasad. This is like another goal for us to aspire for. We cannot like immediately go to like New Vrindavan or to Vrindavan and take care of cows, but what can we do at this point as a step in that direction? Yeah, it is said, like to the previous point, like to take inspiration but not to imitate. So we can take inspiration from all these examples, but we cannot imitate this right away. Like some devotees are much more advanced than others. So instead of trying to compare ourselves with others, like, oh, they are so good at this or so good at that, like every devotee, every soul is in their own unique journey in Krishna consciousness. So some come into this world with like lots of piety, lots of Krishna consciousness. We see like someone like Amarendra Prabhu. He's such a young man, actually hardly 30, I think. He can speak the scriptures so eloquently. So it is clearly like a gift from Krishna, from his guru, and of course his own sincerity. So rather than comparing ourselves with the devotee next to us, like let us take inspiration from them. Let us try not to imitate. Let us try not to become envious or try to pull them down. Let us try to encourage and enter into the mood of Vrindavan while we are here. So as we do that, our gurus, Srila Prabhupada and Radha Mullidhar Gaur Chandra, they become pleased and they will invite us into that eternal Vrindavan pastimes, to be an eternal Vrajvasi, which is our goal, which is the goal not just for ourselves. We want to help as many other people as possible to also achieve that same goal. I see the time is 7:45, so we'll pause here. If anyone has any questions or comments, please. Adipurush Prabhu here in the room has. I'll come up towards him.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. It's so wonderful how you're acknowledging how wonderful is Krishna, that we all have access to pleasing Krishna, no matter what our station in life, no matter what our qualities or abilities. And it says that anyone can purchase Krishna, but we must give everything. That's the price. We must give all that we have. There's a wonderful quote that says, maybe not everyone is called upon to do great things for the Lord, but any one of us can do some small thing with great love, that's consoling. And in this verse, we're hearing about how the whole atmosphere of the forest, everything, the breeze, the trees, the fragrance of the flowers was very pleasing to Krishna. And it's interesting, Prabhupada explained that the nature responds to the consciousness of the inhabitants of a place, and that sometimes if people are very impious, the place becomes like a desert, no water, nothing growing, nothing green, and it becomes very dry and harsh. But here at Vrindavan is like lush and opulent and so beautiful. And of course, the crowning detail about Vrindavan is that Krishna is there, and that's why they're all like that, because they're trying to please Krishna. And we heard something yesterday. We've heard this so many times, but I never noticed this detail before about the forest fire. I just thought there was a forest fire, but what we were reading yesterday was that some demoniac person deliberately, consciously, maliciously instigated the forest fire. So there are living entities that are antagonistic and that are envious and deliberately delighting in causing pain to others. And that the Supreme Lord Krishna is so wonderful that he rises up to protect us from those antagonistic elements. How wonderful is Krishna. Anyways, a few comments on the wonderful verse. Thank you so much for the class. We relish your sincerity, that the priceless sincerity and repeating, glorifying the Lord here. Maybe somebody else has some comment.
Hare Krishna.
Hey,
I'm not
Krishna.
quite ready to run upstairs. I'm downstairs, but I'm not finished yet. But I wanted to really appreciate the point of how the Vrajavasis were thinking about let me not die for my own sake. I love the, who will play with Krishna, who will cook for Krishna. And it's reminding me of something my Gurudev said a little while ago. I was with him and we were doing Krishna Katha and Kirtan and such. And then we had like a 2-hour break in the day and people dispersed. And then when we came back, Maharaj said, "What did you do?" And people rested or emails, and he laughed. He said, "But what did you do for Krishna?" And since that comment, I've always been spending my days, when I tally up my activities at the end of the day, like, okay, what did you do for Krishna today? And that is just the spirit of the Vrajavasis. It's always, what can we do for Krishna? And it's easy to forget that. So I was just really appreciating that. And like Adi was saying, Krishna tells us in the Gita, I am flower giving spring. So of course, Vrindavan, he is Vrindavan. And so of course, it's this beautiful, hopeful spring-like place, even in the summer. So Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Jamuna Jai. Yeah, even when we have, that's a good question that your Guru asked, even when we have free time, what are we doing with that time? Are we remembering Krishna? Like Man Mana Bhava Mad Bhakta, Krishna repeats that verse twice, to always remember Krishna, to never forget Krishna. Like what Rupa Goswami said, the sum and substance of all instructions, to always remember and to never forget Krishna. So, yeah, our gurus are egging us on. Thank you. I see Anand Manchari, you asked a question in the chat, how can we encourage others or ourselves more towards service? Can we become more tolerant? Is that a question or is that a comment, Anand Manchari? Okay, it's a note. Thank you.
No, answer it. It's a question for me. If you see someone who's struggling and say, "Can you be more tolerant?" Is that really an encouragement?
Anand Bihari Prabhu is asking a question here in the temple, that if someone is suffering, then is it really encouragement to tell them, Prabhu, please, why don't you try to tolerate more? That's or Prabhuji. I mean, it depends on who they are, where they are, what they are going through. So encouragement looks differently for different times and different circumstances for different devotees. So if it is for example, if someone's car has gotten scratched, then we can ask them to be tolerant. But if someone has lost a loved one, then we cannot just tell them, oh, Prabhu, just tolerate and move on. So there is different degrees and different approaches to do this. And ultimately, we want to do it in a way that they feel encouraged. They feel a sense of support from fellow devotees. And yeah, compassion can be encouragement. Thank you, Jeffrey Prabhu. Yeah, encouragement can look quite different. And sometimes like I've seen, the encouragement can also mean chastisement. Like sometimes if we are making a mistake and we are repeatedly making a mistake, so either our seniors or our gurus, they have the authority to chastise us, and it's not always easy for the false ego. But when Krishna says tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, yes, we have to serve the devotee, serve our guru. But if there is some chastisement, especially by the guru, they see something that they're trying to cut through. And yeah, I got a taste of that once. So there was so it really cuts through our mental conditionings, how we perceive things versus how things are on a spiritual level. So yeah, encouragement can also take that form of chastisement. But of course, we should not go around chastising each and every person around. That requires intelligence and authority and an adhikar. Yeah. Anand Bihari Prabhu wants to say something.
Hare Krishna. Balakrishna Prabhu has so wonderfully answered the question. And I was thinking, when something happens, something comes our way, we have a choice of taking it as an act of injustice towards us, or we can take it as an encouragement, whatever it may be. So it's also upon us. A great deal of that thing lies upon us, how we're taking things. It can be anything, but we have always this freedom, this refreshing freedom of taking it as an encouragement, whatever it may be. It may be chastisement from Balakrishna Prabhu, or from our guru, from our fellow devotees. It can be something nice, but we should always, frankly, we should take everything as an encouragement. That's my 5 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you for encouraging us, dear devotees. Always by your steady attendance, by your smile. Jeffrey Eckler, are you raising your hand to encourage us?
I appreciate this point so much about encouragement taking these many forms, and even forms that we might not think traditionally are the appearance of encouragement that we may remember from childhood. You can do it, is not always the way we get encouraged. But the act of encouraging each other in these multitude of ways, and tying that to this whole idea that no blade of grass is envious of another, and that if I'm being stepped on, then many of us are being stepped on. And so I really like this idea, because in understanding the encouragement to service, we also understand that there is no I. And so in an encouragement to service, the I, the me, the mine melts away, because we have to understand that we're all working towards the same goal. And if we don't replace the I with a we, then we don't have the community of devotees to encourage each other. And so we really have to, I have to remind myself every day that I is not really there. And that, and this talk today has really inspired me to figure out how to do that a little bit more. maybe one of these days I'll figure it out.
No, we can see, Jeffrey Eckler, you got almost no ego left. You got everything replaced with a blade of grass. Okay, dear devotees, come on now. It's time for you to unmute yourself and contribute to class. Isabel, what do you have to say? What did you do for Krishna today? Or planning on doing? Tell us.
I woke up and I prayed for his mercy so that I may serve him better.
Nice. Good start, Adi says.
A question?
A question.
Thank you, Jeffrey Prabhu. Really appreciate your comments. Yeah, the I is always in the context of like how can we serve and how can we help others. So, yeah, it is said like when someone gets initiated, the most important part of their name is Das or Devi Dasi. So the I is important in the sense that we ultimately the body is a vehicle to serve Krishna. So we cannot become masochistic and ignore our needs, our physical, mental, emotional needs, but use that all to lead a healthy life, like Krishna says, to lead a balanced life, and then serve Krishna. So that becomes like a marathon. Like Krishna consciousness is not a sprint. We are told it's a marathon. So how can we do it in with the right consciousness? So in the best possible way. So Anand Manjari, you said you have a question about, okay, on one side we hear how Krishna needs devotees and otherwise he wouldn't have boys to play with or no one would feed him. How do we learn from this consciousness without falling into pride, as truly he is only allowing us to serve him while being self-satisfied? Again, like what is our eternal identity? Like we've all expanded from Krishna. So we are all unique. Our fingerprints are unique. Our personalities are unique. The way we look is unique. So we all have a unique service for Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So so we have to also remember that by us being in the material world or by us being in the material consciousness, we are depriving the Lord of something. And he remembers each of us through millions of lifetimes, and he's missing us. Like Prabhupada says that Krishna is more anxious to have us back with him than we are to be with him, actually. So you see the heart of God, actually. So in one sense, it is okay to feel that without me, the service will not take place. But in another sense, it is also wrong to think like, oh, it is me who's doing this, or it is I. So I hope it is making some sense that, yes, we are required in Radha and Krishna's eternal pastimes. Like Prabhupada would say, we can all take part in the dancing pastimes, which means the Rasa Leela. So how can we help others and help ourselves to come there? So the altar is about to open. So thank you so much, Anand Manjari and all the devotees. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you, Bala Krishna Prabhu. Great class. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, all right. Jeffrey Eckler, William G. Rich. Yeah, oh, Rich in the barn. Rich, you're in the barn. You look like a blade of grass. Oh, wow. Shoveling. What are you shoveling, Rich?
Well, I guess on the superficial level, I'm shoveling cow poop, but hopefully in the process, I can shovel a little bit of the corruption from my own mind and heart.
Yes, that's the meditation. Yes, nice. Yogeshwari, Suzanne, Amish Prabhu, Henry Prabhu. Henry Prabhu, are you in Hawaii? What universe, what planet are you on? Goloka Vrindavan, I'd say. Pink Yogi, Amrita Kishori Didi, thank you very much. Jeffrey Eckler, the transcendental squatter. All right. And Merry Christmas, William. Every day is Christmas Day for in devotional life. Okay, have a wonderful day. Hari Hari Bol. Love you all.